The oppressors are the benefactors of lies and confusion. They have therefore manipulated millions to believe that there are many truths and that everyone's entitled to their own truths. It's how they keep the world in chaos to their benefit. They've also devalued the need for the truth within the minds of the masses because they sit upon a throne of lies. It's how they protect their lies from being discovered. However, the truth is that there's only one truth. If you're not functioning based on what's actually true, you're functioning based upon a lie. Now, usually everyone has the right to believe what they want to believe. However, there's a profound exception to this rule when it comes to the oppressed. The oppressed must function based on what's actually true. Because if our understandings are flawed, then all liberating strategies that stems from those flawed understandings will also be flawed. Therefore, our enemies keeps our understandings flawed to prevent us from being able to liberate ourselves. The following is a quote from a 1832 speech presented before the founding fathers, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, and Abraham Lincoln, by Henry Berry, a member of the Virginia House of Delegates. Berry said, "We have as far as possible closed every avenue by which the light of truth may enter the minds of the Negro. If we could extinguish their capacity to gain any light of truth, our work will be complete. They would then be on the level of the beasts of the field, and we will then be safe. And we can then rule over them forever." They don't want us to ever gain a true and accurate understanding of our plight and condition. Because they know that once we learn the truth of our plight and condition, we'll then be able to develop the proper counter strategies that are necessary for liberating ourselves. The solution to all problems is gaining a clear understanding of the problem. Preventing us from gaining an accurate understanding of our plight and condition is why white oppressive forces have spread so much disinformation into the minds of Black people in regards to our plight and condition. Fortunately, throughout generations, the ancestors have always provided us with those they've given the spiritual insight and innate ability to see through the oppressor's maze of lies and recognize their oppressive tactics. Those of us given the insight to lead the masses of our people out of the maze of confusion, which the enemy has set forth for us, has an obligation to do so. Our ancestors demand this of us. This is why those who know the truth must teach. African proverb. Unlike at the conclusion of World War II, when the Jewish Holocaust ended and the U.S. and the UN contributed massive financial support to rebuild the lives of the Jews, there was no moral obligation to do the same for we Africans. Although the African Holocaust lasted hundreds of years longer and resulted in millions of more deaths and more greatly decimated the African culture, when slavery was abolished, America, Great Britain, and the many other white nations that benefited themselves greatly through their brutal exploitation of Africa felt no moral obligation to restore the lives of Africans. They instead focused on their own self-interest by trauma bonding Africans. Black people are within a trauma bonded relationship with a narcissistic white society. The term trauma bonded relationship is usually associated with individual relationships, abusive relationships, in which an abused person is trauma bonded to a narcissistic abuser. Here's how it's achieved. After repeatedly brutalizing the victim, the narcissistic abuser never acknowledges any of his wrongdoing. He instead minimizes the abuse and tells the victim that the abuse wasn't that bad and to just get over it. He then constantly inundates the victim with demoralizing and disapproving narratives about the victim. This is continued until the victim stops focusing on the abuse and instead focuses only on the demoralizing, disapproving narratives. Therefore, rather than resenting the abuser for abusing them, the victim instead focusing only on the disapproving narratives tries to win the approval of the abuser. This trauma bonding effect provides the abuser with a more favorable outcome from his victim, rather than having the victim hating and resenting him. The victim instead wants his approval. It's a gaslighting tactic. Likewise, the same trauma bonding abusive manipulation tactics is what the white society has done to black people on a larger scale. After brutalizing black people for many centuries, the white society never acknowledged any of the horrible deeds they've done to black people. They instead insist that the abuse of black people wasn't that bad, and they tell black people to just get over it. They even whitewash their textbooks to claim that the white society's abusive mistreatment of black people actually improved the lives of black people. And in addition to these lies, they constantly inundate black people with black racially demoralizing propaganda and white disapproving propaganda. This is continued until, rather than resenting the white society for abusing us for centuries, many black people, instead focusing only on the demoralizing propaganda and the disapproving propaganda, have therefore instead tries to win the approval of the white society. Many black people will even go out of their ways to try to win the approval of white society, to try to show the white society we're not all bad. This is the truth of what has been done to black people by the white society. Black people are within a trauma-bonded abusive relationship with a narcissistic white society. And just like within most abusive relationships, the white abusers have convinced many of their black victims to believe that the abuse that we endured was our own fault. So instead of resenting them, we instead seek the white society's approval. It's a psychological mind hack. The minds of targeted population are quite easy to manipulate if the targeted population is unaware of what's being done to them. Once minds have been confused, manipulation becomes simple. The mind will even ignore common sense, and rationality falls away, even overlooking hypocrisy and deception. This is the truth of our plighted condition. Now you know the truth. The truth has finally come forward. The millions of our people have been conditioned to fear it and to hate those who speaks it. These are those people who are literally, they act as wardens of their own mental prison. Millions also refuse to accept the truth because of the inherent call for action that comes with accepting the truth. Many therefore cling to believing in their biblical fairy tale and their silly slave syndrome myths, which keeps their minds dumbed down and mentally enslaved to the benefit of the white society. Brothers and sisters, we are living in the time of the truth. Now the choice is yours. You can continue believing in ignorant, silly things that makes no sense. You can continue believing in what insults your intelligence. Or you can start learning the truth and learning what makes sense, what is concrete. Brothers and sisters, it is time to wake up. The time of believing in idiotic things is over. One love and peace.